The game is over. Tesla's silver crisis has arrived, and it's hitting during their most ambitious production targets in company history. We're watching $75 per ounce. Silver absolutely incinerate the economics of electric vehicle manufacturing. Do you understand what this means? Procurement teams across Tesla's gigafactories are sounding alarms right now. The 820 million ounce global deficit that we've been tracking for 5 consecutive years has finally caught up to the world's largest EV manufacturer. This is not a temporary supply hiccup. This is the moment when physical reality defeats paper promises, and Tesla is about to learn that you cannot print silver out of thin air. Let's look at the receipts. Tesla uses between 25 and 50 grams of silver per standard vehicle. But here's where it gets dangerous. Their solid-state battery prototypes require up to 1 full kilogram of silver per unit. 1 kilogram. That's 1,000 grams compared to the 25-50 grams in current models. The price explosion tells the real story. Silver started 2025 at around $30 per ounce. Today, we're looking at $75 per ounce. That's a 150% surge that adds hundreds of dollars in raw material costs per vehicle that simply wasn't there 12 months ago. But wait, it gets worse. This marks the 5th consecutive year of global silver shortage, totaling 820 million ounces. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to an entire year of global mine production just vanished from the market. Gone. Exchange-monitored silver inventories in Shanghai and London have crashed to 10-year lows. The vaults are empty. Silver lease rates have spiked to 39%. These are the financial alarm bells that should make your blood run cold. When lease rates hit levels like this, it means nobody wants to lend their physical silver because they know they might not get it back. Lead times for industrial-grade silver paste, the stuff Tesla needs for their circuit boards and electrical systems, have doubled from 4 weeks to 8 weeks minimum. Some suppliers are quoting 12 weeks or longer. This is unprecedented in the modern automotive supply chain. Tesla's quarterly silver demand alone puts massive pressure on an already broken market. When you're producing over 400,000 vehicles per quarter and each one needs 25-50 grams of silver minimum, you're talking about 10 to 20 tons of silver every 3 months. That's before we even discuss their energy storage systems, solar panels, and charging infrastructure. The math is brutal. At current production rates and silver content, Tesla needs roughly 80 tons of silver annually just for vehicle production. Add their energy division, and you're looking at over 100 tons per year. In a market that's already 820 million ounces short, Tesla's demand represents a significant chunk of available supply. Here's the part that should terrify Tesla's CFO. Silver is not optional in electric vehicles. You cannot substitute it. You cannot engineer around it. Every circuit board, every electrical connection, every power management system requires silver for optimal conductivity. There's no viable alternative that maintains the performance standards Tesla has built their brand on. The supply chain signals are flashing red across every metric. Physical silver premiums over spot prices have exploded. Delivery delays are becoming the norm, not the exception. Industrial users are being forced to accept rationed allocations rather than the full quantities they've contracted for. This brings us to the most dangerous part. Tesla has built their entire production scaling strategy on the assumption that raw materials would remain abundant and affordable. They've optimized for efficiency and volume, not for supply chain resilience in a resource-constrained world. The 820 million ounce deficit didn't happen overnight. It's been building for years while Tesla ramped production. But now, with silver at $75 per ounce and climbing, the economics of EV manufacturing are fundamentally breaking down. Tesla is about to discover that you cannot scale infinite growth on finite resources. The price is a lie. The real price of silver, the price that reflects actual physical scarcity, is much higher than 75. And Tesla's procurement teams know it. They're watching their cost structure implode in real time, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. Tesla has quietly added silver to their internal critical materials watch list, following the US government's designation in September 2025. This is not standard procedure. When a company like Tesla flags a material as critical, it means their procurement teams are seeing unprecedented stress signals in the supply chain. The intelligence coming out of Tesla's supplier network paints a terrifying picture. We're hearing reports of unprecedented liquidity squeezes in physical silver markets. This isn't about paper contracts or futures pricing. This is about actual metal that needs to be delivered to gigafactories for production lines that cannot stop. Multiple gigafactory suppliers are reportedly activating force majeure clauses in their contracts. Force majeure, the legal term that means act of God or circumstances beyond reasonable control. When suppliers start invoking these clauses, it means they literally cannot deliver the materials they've contractually promised. They're legally declaring that the silver shortage has made their obligations impossible to fulfill. Market analysts suggest margin pressure could threaten Model 3 and Model Y pricing. But here's what the analysts aren't telling you. Tesla's procurement teams are already seeing this pressure in real time. Every supplier quote that comes back higher than the previous month. Every delivery schedule that gets pushed back another week. Every allocation that gets cut by another percentage. Production scheduling conflicts are emerging as silver allocation becomes rationed across the industry. Tesla's just-in-time manufacturing philosophy is colliding with a supply chain that can no longer guarantee just-in-time delivery. When you can't get the silver you need when you need it, your entire production schedule becomes hostage to material availability. This exposes a massive vulnerability in Elon's vertical integration strategy. Tesla has vertically integrated batteries, chips, and software, but they never vertically integrated their access to the raw materials that make those components possible. They're still dependent on the same broken supply chain as everyone else when it comes to silver. The procurement teams at GigaFactory Texas, Berlin, and Shanghai are all reporting the same thing. Lead times extending, prices escalating, and suppliers becoming increasingly unreliable. This isn't happening in isolation. This is a coordinated collapse of silver availability across the global supply chain. Tesla's supplier contracts are proving worthless in this environment. Long-term pricing agreements with force majeure clauses become meaningless when suppliers simply cannot source the silver they need to fulfill those contracts. Tesla thought they had secured supply. What they actually secured was promises that cannot be kept in a shortage this severe. The intelligence suggests Tesla is being forced to compete on the spot market for silver allocation. This puts them at a massive disadvantage compared to vertically integrated competitors who control their own supply chains from mine to factory floor. Tesla is discovering that being the smartest company in the room does not matter when you don't control the physical resources you need. Internal logistics teams are reportedly scrambling to identify alternative suppliers and backup sources. But here's the problem. There are no backup sources in a global shortage. Every silver supplier is already allocated. Every mine is already producing at capacity. Every refinery is already booked solid. The procurement intelligence reveals something even more dangerous. Tesla has transitioned to solid-state batteries. Their next-generation technology that promises faster charging and longer range requires 20 times more silver per vehicle. Just as silver becomes impossible to source reliably, Tesla needs exponentially more of it to deliver their technological promises. This brings us to the most damaging intelligence of all. Tesla's procurement teams are reportedly being told by suppliers that current pricing and availability are the new normal, not a temporary disruption. The silver shortage isn't a crisis that will resolve in 6 months. It's the new reality of manufacturing in a resource-constrained world. The game has fundamentally changed, and Tesla's procurement teams are the first to see it. While Tesla scrambles for silver on the open market, BYD is sitting pretty with 75% vertical integration that includes direct ownership stakes in mining operations. The Chinese automaker controls their silver supply chain from source to battery pack, and that advantage is about to become absolutely devastating. BYD doesn't just manufacture cars. They own pieces of the mines that extract the silver, they control the refineries that process it, they operate the factories that turn it into components. When silver hits $75 per ounce, BYD's cost structure barely moves because they're paying mine cost, not market price. Tesla's reliance on Panasonic, LG Energy, and CATL creates a vulnerability that's now being brutally exposed. Every one of those suppliers is competing for the same scarce silver that Tesla needs. Every one of them is paying spot market prices that have exploded 150% this year. Every one of them is passing those costs directly to Tesla. But BYD can cut the line. When silver becomes rationed across the industry, BYD gets first allocation because they own the source. Tesla gets whatever's left over after BYD, and other vertically integrated manufacturers take their share. This is how resource wars are won and lost in real time. The vertical integration advantage becomes even more pronounced when you examine long-term contracts. Tesla thought they were smart by locking in multi-year supply agreements with their battery suppliers, but those contracts include force majeure clauses that become worthless in a genuine shortage. When suppliers cannot source silver at any price, those beautiful long-term contracts become expensive toilet paper. BYD doesn't have force majeure risk because they control the entire chain. Their silver doesn't come from external suppliers who might invoke emergency clauses. It comes from mines they own stakes in, processed through refineries they control, delivered to factories they operate. No external dependencies, no supply chain vulnerabilities, no force majeure clauses that can destroy their production schedules. This advantage compounds when we look at Samsung's solid-state battery technology that requires 20 times more silver per unit. Tesla is desperately trying to source technology that needs 1,000 grams of silver per vehicle in a market where they're already struggling to get 50 grams reliably. BYD is calmly scaling the same technology because they know exactly where their silver is coming from for the next decade. The competitive dynamics are shifting in real time. While Tesla fights for allocation in spot markets, BYD is expanding production capacity. While Tesla's margins get compressed by silver price explosions, BYD maintains profitability through vertical integration. While Tesla delays solid-state battery deployment due to material constraints, BYD accelerates their timeline because they control the supply chain. Tesla's procurement teams are learning a harsh lesson about the difference between financial engineering and physical reality. You can optimize supply chains for efficiency, but you cannot optimize away scarcity. You can negotiate brilliant contracts, but you cannot contract your way out of geological limits. You can vertically integrate software and manufacturing, but if you don't control the raw materials, you don't control your destiny. BYD understood this from day one. They built their empire on the assumption that resources would become scarce and expensive. They positioned themselves to benefit from scarcity rather than suffer from it. Tesla built their empire on the assumption that resources would remain abundant and cheap. They optimized for a world that no longer exists. The result is predictable. BYD gains market share while Tesla loses it. BYD maintains margins while Tesla's compress. BYD scales next-generation technology while Tesla delays it. This is what happens when vertical integration meets resource scarcity. The vertically integrated win. Everyone else fights for scraps. Tesla's silver shortage isn't just a supply chain problem. It's an existential threat to their competitive position in a world where BYD controls the resources that Tesla desperately needs. TSLA stock is sitting on a powder keg, and the fuse is already lit. When Tesla reports their next quarterly earnings and announces production guidance cuts due to silver supply constraints, the market is going to absolutely massacre the stock price. Wall Street has priced Tesla for infinite growth. They have not priced Tesla for resource scarcity. The margin compression is already baked in. At $75 per ounce silver, Tesla is looking at an additional $300, $500 in raw material costs per vehicle compared to last year. That's pure margin destruction on vehicles that were already operating on tight profitability targets. Tesla cannot absorb these costs indefinitely without either raising prices or accepting margin compression that destroys their valuation. Tesla will be forced into an impossible choice. Raise Model 3 and Model Y prices by $500, $1,000 per vehicle to maintain margins, which kills demand in their core market segments. Or accept margin compression that turns their growth story into a profitability nightmare. Either way, TSLA gets incinerated. But this creates massive opportunities for those positioned correctly. Primary silver miners like First Majestic Silver and Pan American Silver are the only pure plays that benefit directly from 75 silver prices. While Tesla's margins implode, silver miners see their profitability explode exponentially. Most silver comes as a byproduct of copper and zinc mining, but primary silver miners get the full benefit of these price explosions. The unobtanium phase has officially begun for industrial silver users. Tesla is about to discover what happens when a critical material transitions from abundant to scarce. The price doesn't just go up, the price teleports to levels that make current production economics completely unsustainable. Tesla's solid-state battery timeline is now hostage to silver availability. The technology that was supposed to give them a competitive advantage has become the technology that exposes their supply chain vulnerability. You cannot deploy batteries that require 1,000 grams of silver per vehicle when you cannot reliably source 50 grams per vehicle. This is the margin call moment for the entire EV industry. Tesla was supposed to prove that electric vehicles could scale infinitely. Instead, they're proving that infinite scaling hits the wall of finite resources. The silver shortage exposes the fundamental lie that underlies the entire EV revolution, that you can replace resource-intensive internal combustion engines with even more resource-intensive electric drivetrains without consequences. Tesla's silver shortage exposes the lie of infinite EV scaling without resource constraints. Physical reality is defeating paper promises once again, and Tesla is learning that you cannot engineer your way around geological scarcity. The game is over for companies that assumed abundant resources would last forever. Subscribe for daily updates as this crisis unfolds and transforms the entire automotive industry.